My name is Andres Sanchez, Andres Business Finance, and I am again together with Mike Menahan from govbitpro.com, so we can tell you about how the one big beautiful bill is going to affect a lot of industries in right now in the United States in 2025. Mike, how are you today? I'm excited to talk to you about all of these industries. How's everything?
Everything's great. Thanks for having me again. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on the political front and the activities of this past weekend in the Middle East, where the United States took out the 3 nuclear power plants. So that's shaking things up, and we're waiting for the big beautiful bill to get passed so we can have a budget and not continuing resolutions. So things are moving in the right direction.
I agree, Mike. And that's why we need to stay really looking at this, because we talk about the one big beautiful bill and how 8 industries are going to win government contracts in the coming years. I think that is very important that we tell people how the government looks at government spending. The government is going to need goods and services provided by, of course, there's going to be large businesses and small businesses. Remember, the small to mid-sized businesses are going to need to provide us with technology, office, medical equipment, construction. We talk about, the transportation, and of course, food and beverage. That's why the work that you do is very important. Mike, tell us a little bit about what you do in this sector. Tell everybody, that is looking at the screen, how you help them.
Sure. So first off, what we do is we look at not just SAM.gov, SAM.gov, where the open market bids are, and that's part of what we do is the bid capture. But more importantly, we focus on specific industries. Now, the fact that there's going to be a budget versus a continuing resolution, what that translates to is the fact that there'll be programs. So let's dive into a little bit here. What you have is you have a buyer in the government called a contract manager. Okay, and that contract manager goes into a contract with, let's say, a Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Raytheon or some of the big companies out there that build missiles and airplanes and buildings and that kind of thing, commercial real estate. So where the small businesses, us, the audience, comes in is where this contract manager creates a program for, let's say, testing of metamaterials. So now we need testing. So now what I want the audience to think of is you have this Young Rainy Star Center. I used to work in this Young Rainy Star Center, and 80% of it was Raytheon, but the other 20% was small businesses just like you and I that were trying to work with Raytheon and the government. So when the government creates a program, Raytheon's not going to deliver roofs and windows and air conditioning and medical equipment and laptops and cybersecurity to the government. It's the small businesses. When we have a budget, the small businesses get 27% of our budget. That's big. So that's where you get the computer programming, the medical equipment, the office equipment, the administration, the training. All that comes from small businesses just like you and I. And the programs, like a Golden Dome, for example, that's going to be, they're estimating it to be about $20 billion. I think it's going to be a lot higher. But when you create this radar system, this Golden Dome, how many businesses, how many engineers have to be part of this Golden Dome? And then you have to put engineers in a building to work. So then you've got computers, roofs, windows, air conditioning, janitorial supplies, the cafeteria, the parking lot, the painting, all that has to go. The support of this building that's 2 million square feet, 1 million square feet. So I want the audience to think of that and how they can be part of it. I'll give you a quick example. I have a client that I'm working with right now that does staffing of nurses for schools. How many schools are out there? Now, every school has to staff a full-time nurse, maybe 2 or 3. Some of these nurses, you're in Houston, that's a big school district. Texas is one of the largest states in the country, if not the largest state. I think it's going to surpass California,
Huge.
but that's another story, right? So how many nurses go into these schools where there's 4,000 kids in this high school? So think about stuff like that.
Amazing. Absolutely, Mike. Well, that's one of the things that we have to remind people, that there's so much need for small businesses to provide all of those goods and services that the government is looking to fulfill. So we wanted to we wanted to showcase how GovBid Pro helps small businesses on the government bids, on the sourcing, on the proposal, and the contract management. But more importantly, we want, let's say, those businesses like the staffing, nurse staffing industry, if they're listening, if they're paying attention, well, GovBid Pro can help this industry really continue to get more contracts in, not just basically for government, all in SAM.gov, but municipalities and school districts and so forth. So we talk about the 8 industries that will be affected, and I wanted to show the screen on those so people can pay attention, because it's very interesting that we're going to have this boom on this particular industries. Walk us through, if you can, Mike, on the list of industries that will be affected in the coming years.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate that. So the first one is going to be your IT. So your custom computer programming that's going to be coming up. The government is very focused on this AI, the artificial intelligence, as well as the blockchain and the cybersecurity. That's really part of the Golden Dome, is the cybersecurity and all the data hacking and all this stuff going on, and making sure that now you've got, we have videos on govbidpro.com that it's AI. It's not a real person. A computer made it. So the computer programming is going to be big. The next one is the other computer related. You talk about virtual record system protection. So like health patients protection, for example, the Veterans Administration. And really, I just want to do a quick segue. The 3 top agencies that we think that are going to have increase, especially now that the president's at the NATO summit, is DOD, DHS, and VA. So defense is definitely going to increase. Homeland Security, we're going to see Border Patrol be huge. And then the VA is also big. Administrative management and general management consulting services. What happens there is, Andreas, is the government outsources a lot of administrative and contract support and general management of project management of, let's say, you're creating a computer system or a radar system for a missile defense system. The government hands off the project management to a company to manage that project. So that's number 3. Number 4 is somewhat related, but it's in training. So professional management development and training. The government loves to train its staff. That's why you see a lot of staff stay at the government. They're good paying jobs. The benefits are great, but more importantly, not just the benefits, but the benefit of training and education. They get a ton of training, and the government wants someone that's, say, a new person that's entry level to be trained so they can move up to, say, from a junior level to a senior level position, whether that's contract management or whatever that may be. So professional management development and training by industry, us, to train the government employees. That's a big area. Number 5, excuse me, educational support services. That's more specific. That's language training. That's going to be huge as we get more and more involved in the international space, the United Nations, the Middle East, China, Russia. We want people to learn Chinese and Russian. Evaluation programs. Again, there's overseas degree initiatives, more so for us to be more understanding of other people's cultures and evaluating. And STEM is a big thing too. Science, technology, engineering, math. That's also part of the educational support services in number 5. Number 7, okay, we talked about the international market. travel arrangement, having someone arrange transportation, the hospitality piece, right? The hotel, the per diem, the food, and all the services that go into internet access in some of these rural areas that are overseas. So that's number 6, and that's the travel. We're not talking a Airbnb host here. Number 7, we talked about data centers in past podcasts, data processing, hosting related. So what you're talking about is not just a data center in, let's say, New Mexico or Arizona. Obviously, those are desert states because there's not a lot of precipitation. So you want to look for that. But you want the construction of the data center. And it's actually more affordable to build a brand new building that's 1 million or 2 million square feet versus taking an old building and reconstructing it. So with the cost being the way they are in commercial real estate. So you build a brand new building. So now you're talking the construction, the caterpillar, the nails, the hammers, the roof people, the floors, the HVAC people, right? If it's a place that gets cold, like New Mexico gets cold, I used to live there. Then you're talking about heat and boilers and windows and lighting and the electrical work, all that work that goes into these data centers. So it's the construction of the data center. They don't have to they don't have to turn on a computer, the construction people, but they do have to build a data center per spec. That's the thing, is the government's going to have a very specific, a spec
Requirements.
requirements. Yeah, they'll down to the what type of flooring they want. Anyway, so it's the construction of it, the management of the building. We're talking the facility management, making sure the parking lot's clean, making sure the securities, the surveillance cameras. We want to keep these data centers secured from these the terrorists. Let's just say who it is, right? And then so we're not even at the point of the IT folks, which are number 1 and number 2, and the administrative people that work for the engineers, right? So that's 1 and 2 and 3 are part of number 7, right? So it's the software, the hardware, and all that. Okay, number 8, manufacturing, huge. We're talking about manufacturing of the products that are going into these data centers, and the manufacturing as more, and Andreas, you can attest to this, where more and more of the manufacturing is coming back onshore, back to the U.S. We're making our own computer monitors and medical equipment and construction equipment and everything else. Here's another one in number 8, furniture. We need furniture in these buildings, right? So
think
all
about that.
These
they got to sit down somewhere.
Exactly. And so these areas, these 8 areas, I think, are going to be the growth. And let's go backwards for a second. The growth is coming from, and I want the audience to know this, is that when you have the beautiful bill, you have a budget versus a continuing resolution. So the continuing resolution, what is that? So the audience knows. What that is we're just kicking the can down the road, and we're just going to go by, if let's say it costs $1 billion to run the Defense Department for 1 quarter. Okay. So let's not have a budget, and let's just keep going for another 3 months, 1 quarter, for another $1 billion using last quarter's numbers. We don't want that. You want a budget, number 1, because that's good for the country. Number 2, it's stability. And number 3, it's good for small business because there's programs that come from the stability, right? So the fact that there's stability, the contract manager's like, yes, we have a budget. So now we're going to do this program for, let's say, metamaterials. Let's test. They have a program right now to make helicopters instead of steel, but make it out of metamaterials, so that the metamaterial is a lot lighter than the steel. Before,
like
I don't want to go
fiber,
right. Well, what happens is the government wants to test this. I have a client that's in surveillance, and they make these very complex surveillance systems for Border Patrol. Well, the government is very interested because this is a new patent. It's not just a surveillance camera you can buy on Amazon. These are surveillance systems. So what the audience needs to know in this case is the government took this product, this PTZ, pan tilt zoom, and they tested it for about a week in China Lake. That's what they're going to do, is they're going to test your product, and they're going to beat this thing up, and they're going to test it. They're going to
Tell
make
me,
sure this.
tell me more examples, because actually, you just mentioned someone. I mean, one of the things that, for the audience that is looking at us right now, and they're listening, they're saying, okay, am I in this industry? Am I in any of these industries? So you just mentioned some, and we will talk about this, because I know I have a client that he does installation for the security cameras, but he does it for the private sector. And it's for, like, let's say we talk about oil facilities here in Texas, which is, is huge. Well, can they get into government contracting then? Absolutely. Like, they can, because they already have that experience and that knowledge with huge infrastructures. So let's think about those business owners that are listening to us and say, okay, if I am in computers, if I am in educational support, I do training, evaluation, and I do travel arrangements. That's what my company does. I know basically how to, in large manufacturing industries, we do, furniture, as you mentioned. There's so many industries that are going to need to contact us to be able to talk to you and say, okay, we need to really, understand if we can get into government contracting right now. That is the biggest opportunity that we're going to have in the next years, to be able to win those contracts.
So what I want the audience to do is this. Let's focus on 3 departments that are, this administration has a America First agenda. And so what does that mean? It means that, number one, we're going to be peace through strength. We're not going to go to war, but you're also not going to have your nuclear power plants to make a nuclear bomb. That's not going to happen, because this country is run by people that are fanatical, right? So think of it that way. So now, okay, what does that tell us? That means that we need a strong defense department. That means we need a strong Navy. So we need new ships and new B-2 bombers. Okay, great. Let's really granulate it. Let's take the B-2 bomber. Okay, let's make this airplane, this $500 million airplane. How many parts? There's 50,000 parts in this airplane. People have to put the airplane together. They have to work at a hangar. They have to work with Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, these big companies. So they're subcontracting. They're all the facilities that are involved in making this bomber, right? And the missile, the 30,000-pound bomb that they created, the missile, the computers that have to go into it. Now, we know that the Golden Dome is going to happen. And it'll be separate from the big, beautiful bill, but that's a separate story. So now you're talking about a radar system. Okay, maybe you don't make radar systems, but we have to put engineers in buildings to make the radar system. So everything involved in this, like, for example, I used to work at a building called the Young Rainey Star Center, Science, Technology, and Research Center. It's in Pinellas County. What happened is Congressman Young, who's the congressman in Pinellas County, took this building that was for Martin Marietta. If you remember Martin Marietta, it turned into Lockheed Martin, and he sold the building. He rented the building to Raytheon, which was 80% of the building. But then there's all these little offices. So he rents the offices to the small businesses for like $5 a square foot. This is a couple years back. So now you're talking about new furniture, new carpet, new windows. We need the janitor to come clean and take the garbage out once a day. We need a cafeteria. We need lighting. We need internet access. All these trades are involved. I remember I was working in this building and they did new flooring, the entire hall in just one building, right? So, and the upkeep of this building, and this is an older building. Like I said, Martin Marietta used to be in this building a long time ago. So the commercial real estate is big, the management of it, parking lot, paint. Then they had, you talk about administrative and training, they had these big conference room where you had people meeting. All these small businesses were like, oh, hey, I'm with CFM and we do this. And hey, I'm with Government Pro, we do that. So now you're bringing catering, and you have the printers with, they print the business cards. It's a job creator. And there's more and more going on because there used to be this empty building, and now Raytheon takes up 80% of this building. So that's going to give us more opportunity. That's the driver. And then the Chamber of Commerce shows up. So now you've got training and small business support, and you've got all these different areas. And now with these big buildings, you've got data. So you've got this wireless and you've got wired internet. So, I mean, I could go on, but there's opportunities that'll be created. It's like a mini
Absolutely. And
economy.
it is,
Yeah.
well, I mean, really, that's what, when you look at a lot of this, compounds and, this huge infrastructures, they're really like cities. I mean, think about, any,
Yeah.
I mean, the government, really needs, to group all these people, to be able to support a lot of our, needs for infrastructure. So they are like mini cities. They are really like, like our own entities, basically, with a bunch of people basically interacting and functioning and needing services and products. All right. So I want to bring it back to now that everybody that is listening to us and looking at us, they understand that, okay, wow, there's huge opportunities. The next question is, what do I need to get ready if I want to talk to Mike in Gapit Pro? So what are the requirements? What are the ingredients that you want to look at? And I think that
Right.
we go
Okay.
through this. I know that you can tell us a little bit about this, Mike.
Sure. What you want to do is, there's a couple of bullet points on your screen right now. I appreciate you putting that up, Andres. Is have your past performance ready. Okay. So in other words, have just documentation of saying, okay, this was the project that we did, whether you were the prime contractor or the subcontractor, or maybe you were the subcontractor of the subcontractor. That's 3 levels down. So you worked for the
The story.
subcontractor. Okay. Yep. The support. Right. And the size of the deal, data completion, the government's going to want to know everything. Whether the project was completed, what was the amount, where it happened. They want references. The financial piece, that's your credit facilities. Make sure that that's the next section. Make sure that's ready to go. You've got, say, a line of credit at the bank. I'm sure they could talk to you, Andres, at EVEMAR Capital about that. The reason you want that is not just for yourself, but what happens is you'll get a purchase order from the government. You have to deliver the goods and services, and then you invoice, and then you get paid, and then all the T's and have to be crossed and all the I's dotted in the invoice, which we help people with. So you want to have a line of credit, a credit facility to pay your expenses. You've got subcontractors working for you. You might, you've got expenses going out as you're trying to complete this project. Even if you're just reselling a product, you still have to pay the supplier, and you might have net 30 terms with the supplier. Well, that's a credit facility. And by the way, this is something that we talk about with our prospects. We have a complimentary consultation. It includes a bid strategy session. We want people to have this information, and we want people to try and this government bids and see it for the first time for a lot of people. So we give them 3 bids for free, complimentary. Here you go. Here's 3 bids. And they get to work with us. They get to work with us and see how it is. They get to see how the government works, and they see the process. And we could dive in a little bit more about the process. There's really 3 pieces to it. Number 1, you got to find the bids that are good for you. The government doesn't, here's the big thing. And this is, I want people to understand this. They don't want phone calls and they don't want emails. So what they'll say is no phone calls, no emails. Here's an RFQ. Here's a request for quote that's due next Friday. Send us your bid. End of story. Don't call us. Right? So
Yep.
salespeople actually don't do well with government because it's a different structure. It's a different way of buying. So what we have to understand, and this is what we try to share with people at GovBid Pro, is how the government buys, and then how do you sell to the government is by responding to these quotes. And that's exactly what we do. So the first thing that has to happen is we got to find these bids on sam.gov and say, is this a good fit? It's due next Friday. The due date's very important. And then we create the proposal. If it's a good fit and everything works out, So now we've got a proposal that's created, and then we submit, and the government says, please submit by next Friday at 5 p.m. and send, Bob Smith at navy.mil, your email, and make sure the PDF is no more than 10 pages. They've got all their specs, they've got all their requirements. So this is stuff that we talk about in our complimentary consultation, and you get to see what a bid looks like. We also have 14 on-demand training sessions, videos on my website, and we have training and support packages as well. I invite people to go to govbidpro.com to take a look. And then we work with finance folks like yourself at EVEMAR Capital for, it's your thing, it's the PO financing and the factoring that's needed and the equipment financing that goes into all these deals.
Absolutely, Mike. Well, I think that this is a very valuable podcast because we really nail down a lot of the processes, a lot of the industries. And if you still have doubts about, hey, look, am I in an industry that is going to have benefits from the new government contracting, opportunities that are going to come? Just call us. Just call Mike. Call us at EVEMARcapital.com. You can go govbidpro.com. You can find us basically on the web. You can contact Mike. Mike, please mention your phone number again, your email, so people can contact you again, and let's get people, a free consultation, of all of these conversations.
And one more thing that I want to add, if you're still not sure, what I tell people to do is go through an exercise. Let's say you're going to the grocery store, the dry cleaner, or you're picking up a child at a school. Think about the government that's involved in our roads and bridges and tunnels and schools and airports. Airports are run by a transportation authority. The highways that are being built, the electrical grid, that's the electrical company, but the government's involved with FEMA, making sure that the grid is good. God forbid there's a hurricane, that kind of thing, right? The Air Force base that's in your hometown, the Army base that's in your hometown, the jails are run by government, the police is run by government. A lot of government, and the federal government also supplies money to the schools and the airports and the police and that kind of thing. So I appreciate the opportunity. People can get a hold of me. Email's the best. Mike at govbidpro.com. Go to our website too. There's tons of videos. We have a free reseller training video. It's govbidpro.com, govbidpro.com. We've got even new AI videos. It's not me. It's a pretty lady that's made by a computer. And then phone number, they can get a hold of me at my office, 505-585-1749. And I'll take a call, and we offer 15, 20 minutes consultation. It's plenty of time to talk about what you want to do. And if the government's is the right space for you, well, I will say this. We want people to play the long game here. And we're talking 6 to 9 months out. There's a lot of competition, but government's a great market. They always pay. If you do everything right, they're not going out of business. They always pay. They're getting tax money in, and they'll pay. They'll invoice. They pay you. They always have.
You mentioned something in the last podcast, Mike, that I wanted to mention again, which is, look, it's a long-term opportunity. Look, yes, there's some steps, there's some preparation. It's not immediate that you're going to get a transaction tomorrow. You need some months of preparation, but you're talking, you can be 24 to 36 months working with us, getting basically all of these government contracts done, which are going to explode then, basically your company. I mean, they allow you to now even bring more diversified cash flow, when we talk about finances, but not only that, expansion. Like, if you wanted to look into maybe doubling your business, like depending on your size, well, this is the best opportunity that you can get right now at the moment. So make sure that you call Mike, and get a consultation done, like, he's fantastic. He will make sure that he understands your position or prepares you for, that position where we can start doing the government contracts. So, Mike,
Even if
we want to keep it short. Go ahead.
Yep. Yep. One more thing. Even if we don't work together, I've got an ebook, I've got templates, I've got guides that will help you. We're here to help people. We're very blessed. We're very thankful, and we're here to help people. I'll give you a great story to close out. There was someone I talked to 2 years ago. She wasn't sure. She has it's the nurse staffing client that I have, and then she finally just says, "I'm ready to pull the trigger." You provide people information. You give them the ebook. You give them the guides. Here's the process. I'm here for you if you need me. And she was ready at some point. People are ready when they're ready, and we're here to provide that information so you can make an educated, knowledgeable decision on whether to do this or not. And it's a good market. It really is. It's been good to me. I've been in this government contracting space for going on 20 years.
That's beautiful, Mike. I admire, basically your experience, and we need people like you, like to be able to help all the small businesses, really solidify those government contracts because, again, as we talk about the process, it's got its you need the knowledge, to be able to get to that level. You need to support yourself with the advisors like you that can help, and us, here at EVEMAR Capital too, like I'll include myself. But Mike, I really appreciate this time. Let's talk about what's coming up in the coming weeks. We're going to talk about other departments. We talked today about the Department of Defense. Okay, these are the businesses that we're going to see. Next podcast, we're going to talk about other departments that are going to need goods and services and what those industries, what are those industries that are going to be affected. I just want to leave the people with that so they can stay tuned and then look at that information. But I really appreciate this time. Look forward to seeing you again, my friend.
Absolutely. And I just want to leave the audience with one thing, and that is for the medical equipment and the nurse staffing and the medical space. I do want to talk about the VA in the next podcast. The Veterans Administration is the largest healthcare system in the world. And we're going to talk about them next time. That's amazing.
We'll talk about, okay, there you go. Now you're hurting. He spilled out the beans here. He already told you what we had to save it for you. But pay attention, because if you are in home care, if you are in any industry that is tied to that can be tied to the VA, you want to hear this information. We're looking forward to bringing you that soon, and I will see you in the next podcast.
Thank you.